Hello, my LinkedIn friends. Happy Thursday. And for people in US, happy Thanksgiving. And hopefully you will have a fancy dinner tonight and also have a lot of great deals for tomorrow, Black Friday. This is actually my second time to do this LinkedIn Live today. I realized the first one, which I did in 11 on 11 a.m. this morning, the video quality for whatever reason was not that good. So I decided to give one more try, and it's kind of like the way live streaming is working. Hopefully the internet connection is good this time, and so let's do it again. Really, because the topic for today is very important. The topic for today is insider threat prevention. So I like to share with you some of my observations and some thoughts, and also look forward to interact with you and hear your thoughts about it. All right, so I'd like to cover several things in today's topic. Number one is the basic fundamental concepts about the insider threats. Number two is, why do you need to care about this topic? And after that, I like to share with you my thoughts about where do you start to prevent the insider threats, and what are some common technical solutions and some common administrative solutions for insider threat prevention. And there are probably also some legal consideration and privacy considerations. And in the end, I like to share with you our upcoming event on this topic, insider threat prevention, which is on December 4th, coming Wednesday. All right, so let me quickly look at my LinkedIn online, because it's a live session. I want to see how many people are online right now. Okay, good. Let's. All right, so for people already in my previous sessions, I hope you can join again, which we can talk more on this important topic. All right, so let's start with some fundamental basics. What is an insider threat? To understand that, we need to understand first what is a threat, right? The threat is a part of the risk management things. So usually, how do you measure a cyber risk? There is a formula. There's a threat times vulnerability times likelihood times impact, kind of give you the foundation to calculate the cyber risk. So threat is a potential harmful activity to target to some like vulnerabilities you have. Insiders, now we combine those two things, insider threats. What is insider? So typically you will have like employee, your internal staffs. That's a normal case for your insiders. But on the broader term, you also need to consider your contractors, your vendors, third party, supply chain. So those are the people, is part of your internal business operation or business process. So they are the insiders. Speaking of insider threats, you typically can categorize them to three areas. One is usually call it malicious users. The second one, we usually call it ignorant users. And the third one is compromised users. So those are three buckets for types of users. For the malicious users, normally you will see people like unhappy staff. So they are not happy about reasons, maybe the salary, the process, the management. So they decide to do something bad to the organization. So they steal some data, they may share some confidential information to outsiders, or they may break your system or cause some system downtime. So those are the malicious users. The second bucket represents a large number of people that we usually call it ignorant users. They pretty much like your normal users, but security usually is an afterthought. They pretty much focus their energy on the job they are doing. They are busy, they're under pressure, and they don't care. They don't care about a lot of rules, policies. They think those probably never apply to them, right? So those are people either don't follow the rules or they make mistakes unintentionally, but violate the security policies, the governance process. So we call it ignorant users. And the third type of users, actually, we call it a compromised users. Really, they are controlled by hackers. Hackers steal your credential, the user ID, and the password. So they act like your internal users. They just reuse those credentials to access your system, to access the data. So in a way, it's a hybrid. It's actually those are the hackers, but they use your internal people's credential to do the bad things. So malicious users, ignorant users, and compromised users. So those are three types of insiders you will see. The question is, why do you care about insider threats? In the cybersecurity strategy, if you kind of are looking at a high level, really is you are dealing with outsiders and insiders. In classic cybersecurity strategy, we put a lot of effort on the external, right? So you in the firewall, you set up rules to block this kind of things. In IDS, intrusion detection and intrusion prevention systems, you set up the rules, the policies to detect and respond to all kinds of hacking activities. But those activities are from outsiders. So there's another chunk of the big part for this cyber strategy is insiders. So the insider threats, which caused by your internal people, the people associated with your companies. The really important thing is the damage caused by the insider people, in many cases, are huge, almost like a disaster. External people, because they are not familiar with your internal process, the system, the secrets, they can cause some damage, but may not be just the nightmare. But the internal people, because they know so much secrets, and it's hard to detect those people. So the consequence in many cases are very big. So just as an example, the Desjardins, so people are familiar with that case, Desjardins insurance incident this year. So one malicious user, like intentional users, collect the personal data about 3 million, nearly 3 million personal data, and share that with outsiders. Just one malicious users caused such a big cybersecurity or security breach. So the leak of the data, while you have so many protections like firewall, all kind of technology, IDS, all those things, but one single person can bypass most of those technical solutions. So which tells you the importance you need to look into those insider threats. And at the end of the day, for cybersecurity, many people already commented on, is people are the weakest link in your cybersecurity, right? So some expert comment on the people are the first line of your cybersecurity, and also they are the last line of your cybersecurity. So it doesn't matter what kind of things you put to your security strategy, tools, defensive technologies, your security is as good as your people. Right, so that's the basic concept. So we need to take care of this important element for the insider threats. All right, so I also welcome people to comment and exchange some thoughts online. So let me take quickly look at the comment here. So Curtis, Suzanne, welcome to this show. So just keep sending your comments or questions. I like to make this as a very interactive session. So far I talk about some fundamental things, concept, threats, insider, what types of insiders, and why do you need to care about insider threats, all right? So the next topic, since we realize this is an important topic, where do you start? What's the starting point to prevent the insider threats? Right. So people may immediately jump to some like technical solution, vendor solution, or whatever controls. But I would argue you have to understand some fundamental things first before you even come up with a strategy or the solution for your insider threat prevention. The number one you need to understand really is know your two things: know your data and know your people. Right, so those are the two fundamental things in your cybersecurity like a strategy. When we talk about data or the system, we usually consider that's part of the asset management domain. So you really need to know what kind of things do you have, what kind of things, what kind of data do you have, what's the classification of the data, where are your data. So asset management is very critical in this part. On the other side, you need to understand your people. Who are your people? What kind of a privilege do they have? What kind of things they can do? So, and what kind of access control, access they have. So it's back to the identity and access management domain. So asset management and IAM are two foundations for the insider threat prevention. And so once you know the data and the people and how people access this data and work in those data, the next very important thing is you need to establish the baseline of normal business activities. The term usually is called operational baseline. So this is a starting point. You must know what's considered as normal. Then you can decide what's like a weird things in your system, which considered is the insider malicious activities. So to do that, you probably need a lot of data and statistics analysis, and also really understand your business process. What kind of activities happen in this business, the overall operational model. All right, so those are the two areas you need to consider. One is know your data and the people. The other is establish the baseline of your business, normal business activities. That consider the starting point of the insider threat prevention. All right. So so for people online, so you feel free to comment on. So if there's something else you think are important, just add to this comment. I only talk about some of the areas. All right. So let's move on. So we know what's the insider threats and where do we need to start. Now look at some solutions. So when I look at those solutions, I usually looking at two sides. One is on the technical side. The other is on the administrative side. Or we usually call it, one is on the hard side, one is on the soft side. There are quite many technical solutions you often see from the vendor tools. I would name 4 of them. You probably have more to add on that one. So the first one I can think about is the DLP, the data loss prevention. So this is a critical, and often you see the vendor provide that kind of tools to prevent the insider threats. So data loss prevention really look at what's your data, what's your people, and look at how people access those data. What kind of things they can do with the data? What kind of things they usually process data consider as a normal activity? But if there's something weird happen, for example, a developer copy financial data and upload to some Dropbox or outside a shared drive or email that kind of sensitive document to somewhere. So those are the activities. It's weird and need to be detected and prevented. So that's usually fall to the data loss prevention domain. And to make that judgment, there are a lot of things to happen, either signature-based or behavior-based, heuristic-based. There are many kind of methods to do that. But overall speaking, it's under the data loss prevention domain. The second tool or solution usually is related to, we call it UBA, user behavior analytics. So this kind of tool is focused on the people's behavior. What kind of activity, what a typical personnel or is doing with under their job function. So for example, I'm a developer, usually I'm writing code and I access some like a test environment. I probably will talk to QA and chat about something with my project manager or my peers. And I may or may not have access to the staging environment, but I definitely don't have the access to the production environment. And I normally don't have the access to some financial data. Right, so those are the activity. What I'm doing is a fit for that kind of job function. So that's usually related to user behavior analytics. The third area, the common tool, are related to the access. So that's we call it a PAM, privileged access management. That kind of tool usually deal with, it's part of a kind of related to identity and access management, but really focus on privileged users. Privileged users like system admin, network admin, or like a HR or CEO, all those people which have the high privilege. So you need to manage those access, because if some of them are doing some bad things, will cause them like a disaster to your whole business. All right. Okay, so that's the PAM, Privileged Access Management. And the last one I want to mention is the SIEM, so Security Information and Event Management, so SIEM. So this is more on the security monitoring and the detection security operation side. So it's like a central place, collect all the machine data, the system data, information into one place, then correlate the data, and based on certain rules or the behaviors to come up with the dashboard report. And if it detects certain weird things, you will let the analyst or security operators to know. So those are the tools for monitoring. So it's called Security Information and Events Management. Okay, so those are the 4 tools I mentioned, or 4 solutions: DLP, data loss prevention; user behavior analytics, UBA; and privileged access management, PAM; and also the system, the security information and the events management, SIEM. So those are falls on the common technical solution. So you can find a lot of vendor tools within that domains. So on the other side, I like to talk a little bit about from the administrative side, what kind of solution for insider threat prevention. You pretty much need to start with the governance and the policy, right? So the policy could be your HR policy, your user behavior policy, the internet access policy, the email policy, the password policy. So you need to reference some like a mature security model or framework to come up with your governance and policies. So that's kind of like a starting point for your insider threat prevention, because you must know what consider as the normal activity, what consider as something you cannot do, right? So those are defined in your governance and the policies. So that's the base. But after that, the very critical part is the security awareness and the training, because we are dealing with the insiders. They are the people, right? So their awareness, their ability to protect is critical to your whole system. And the very effective way to do that is the security awareness and the training. But there's a lot of problems with this one, because you cannot just do some on surface like a checklist, or some there's a mandatory awareness training, but it's just based on some online kind of videos. And when you ask your employee to watch those videos twice a year, then just to check, answer some quiz or check, then you consider that done. Those are not. Those are, yeah, for the compliance point of view is important, but what at the end of the day, what's really important is how your employee, your insiders apply those security principles and how much they aware about those things, right? So the security awareness and the training need to be smart, need to target your context. The key part is you need to engage your users and make them like want to do it rather than just okay, there's another two rules or things handler. And to make that work, you also need to consider another way is we call it a simulation exercise. So for example, we talk about awareness about phishing email, phishing, you cannot click, you cannot download all those things. But once it's coming, we usually still see like a large percentage of users, they don't follow the rules. So one effective way is you need to run some like simulation or exercise. Many companies already adopt those kind of things like a phishing simulation. So send out those simulated phishing emails to employees and to see how they respond. So those kind of exercise, if implemented correctly, will involve the people. So kind of bring the real life experience to them. So now they can realize, oh, that's something really can happen and what kind of a consequence it can cause. Of course, you need to design those things well. And also the key still is to engage the users. And when your insiders make mistakes, don't just simply punish them. Your goal is not punish people. It really is to involve them, to help them to understand and engage the process. So you cannot scare them. In the way, you have to engage them to be part of your strategy. Because don't forget, people are the first line of your cybersecurity. So we talk about the governance and the policy. We talk about the security awareness and the training and the simulation exercise. So those are under the administrative solutions for the insider threat prevention. But in fact, what I really want to say is, if you forget about all those things, or those are the way to do it, but at the end of the day, what's really, really critical and make the difference is your company culture. If you have a positive company culture, people like what they do, they want to contribute, they are motivated, they are energetic, they consider them as a kind of, they take some ownership of what they are doing, they will have that security as a part of your process. So the positive company culture is really important. And if your employees are all happy, that will significantly reduce some malicious users, right? So in a way, you have to also focus on build the healthy culture, the transparent, engagement kind of things in your company cultures. That will serve you for the long run. So it's not just a technical solution or some like a policy or some training. Really is how do you treat your people? How do you involve your people in your business? So that's the key area you need to focus on. In a way which tells you cybersecurity or insider threat prevention is not just a technical problem. And it's not just the administrative problem. Really involve with your business, involve your HR, involve your how do you deal with people, in this case, your insiders, your internal employees. All right, while you implement this one, of course, you need to have some consideration about the legal side and the privacy side, because many of those tools, it kind of collect the data, monitor what the people are doing, right? So there's inevitably you collect their activities. So all those things, you need to, as much as possible, give the transparent to people. Let them realize what's going on there and know their responsibility, know there's something happening behind the scene. and especially when people like on board for new employees, right? So in the orientation time, in the like HR process, you need to let them know there's something regarding the inside threat prevention, and also respect their data privacy. And they also need to looking at what kind of jurisdiction your company are in, and where is your data, and the local employment laws to incorporate that into your inside threat prevention process. Because some of them may revolve the HR process. For example, if there's a certain things happen, may involve with the consequence like a fire, let people go, those kind of things. You have to consider the local employment laws and how that work together with the inside threat prevention. All right, I'm not an expert on this side, but we will have some expert coming in our upcoming event, so you really can learn more from there. With that said, because I covered several things today regarding the inside threat prevention. So what I talk about are some fundamental concepts regarding the threat, insiders, insider threats, and why do you need to care this topic, right? So you need to looking at the malicious users really can cause the huge damage to your companies. If you only, your cybersecurity or cyber strategy only look at the outsider, you miss another big chunk of the pie. And where do you start with the inside threat prevention? You need to focus on the data and the people, and also establish some baseline of your normal business activities. What are some common business solutions or some common controls for insider threat prevention? I can consider there are two sides. One is on the technical side. You can see something like a DLP, data loss prevention, UBA, user behavior analytics, and PAM, privilege access management, and the SIEM, security information events management. On the administrative side, what you can see normally is your governance, security, or risk governance and policies, your security awareness and training, and also your a simulation and exercise. But at the end of the day, to make those all things are working, you really need to focus on your company culture, to engage your insiders, your customers, your inside people, your employees, and third parties, your vendors or suppliers work together as ecosystems to prevent the insider threats. All right. So with that said, to learn more about that, I'd like to share with you our upcoming event. This is the event we're having at upcoming here. So this is the event happening on December 4th, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. In RBC Water Park Place Auditorium, 88 Queens Quay West in Toronto. Close to the Union Station. So we are having some industry experts and the leaders come to share their knowledge with you. So we will have the Romeo from Forcepoint. He will talk about the really looking at the data and the behavior analytics, how to come up with the strategy and the controls. And we will also have a panel discussion about applying inside threat prevention in business. With that, our panelists are Cormac. Cormac is a senior director at RBC, Royal Bank of Canada, Joint Security Operations Center. So he will bring his expertise to this table. We'll also have Leon, who is the expert in IAM, PAM industry. He's a management partner. So he will also share with you, especially on the PAM side, how that works with the insider threat prevention. We are having Devin from SBA LLP. Devin is a lawyer. So for people who wants to learn more about like a legal consideration, privacy, compliance side of things related to insider threat prevention, he will give you a lot of insights on that. We also have Sarah. Sarah is a CISO, so she will help to bring you some like from strategy or the security program perspective. How does it work with the insider threat prevention? All right, so overall speaking, that will be the interesting session. You can learn, but also what you want to do is to network with those industry leaders and people interested in this topic, like-minded people. So you will have the opportunities not only to learn, collaborate, but also maybe explore some potential opportunities. Doesn't matter it's a business or your career development opportunities. All right, so that's the thing I like to share with you today. This is related to insider threat prevention. So for people online, thank you very much for watching this LinkedIn Live. I know it's a lunchtime, so thanks for joining. And so this is a very important topic. So I just want to share with you those some insights or observation from what I learned, what I experienced, or something I heard from other people. So I look forward to see you on the December 4th event, and so we can meet in person, and also we can learn more from each other. All right. So thank you very much, everybody, and happy Thanksgiving, and also enjoy the dinner, and hopefully you get some good deals tomorrow on the Black Friday. All right, cool. Thanks, everyone, and I will see you around.